Hello. I am running a bit late today because I just am. And so I'm not near as ready as I'd like to be, but it's okay. Let's just see if anybody... If I run a bit late, sometimes folks will leave a comment on the meetup event to let me know. So let's just see if anybody said anything. Okay, no comments, so it seems to all be good. So that's a good thing. All right, so today I'm going to be working with the REST API, the WordPress REST API. And I'm going to be working with custom routes and endpoints. And I want to create something that will allow me to add a custom route. And then not only a get endpoint, but a post endpoint as well. And so to do that, I am probably going to steal a little bit of code from another plugin, or at least some example code that I was working on a while ago. And so I'm going to build a plugin, well, the goal today is to build a plugin that creates a REST API endpoint to submit to a custom table, which we will call form submissions. And then I will test the get endpoint, and then I will hopefully develop the post endpoint so that somebody can submit a form submission to the REST API. And I'm going to leave it unauthenticated for now because I want this thing to be available on the front end, so I can just test it from my testing tool, which is I'm using Postman. And that might be where I leave it for today. Because I literally just want to see if I can get this to work. So yeah, that's the goal. If you are here and you can hear me, or if you can't hear me, let me know. If you just see a face that's talking, but it's not, no words are coming out, then please do let me know, because I have had sound issues in the past. But I think we should be good to go. So I'm going to very quickly update this. And I'm going to say, create a plugin to manage form submissions. And then I'm going to refresh today's topic so that you all can see it. There we go. That was what I was doing before I started the stream, trying to get these things up and running. Okay. So let me go over to my usual development space. And I'm going to create a new plugin for a change. So I'm going to call this WP Learn. And let's go to Form Submissions API. It's just going to be some API routes and endpoints. And the goal is going to be to build this as a procedural plugin first, meaning I'll just have all the code in one file. And then in a future session, I plan on diving into the controller classes chapter of the handbook. That'll kind of be probably the last session I do on the REST API and how the controller classes work. But for now, I'm just going to use good old procedural PHP code to manage these things. Okay, so the two pieces of documentation that I'm working with, Let's make some notes here. We can close that down. Where's my issue? Here it is. Let's add some notes. So the docs that I'm working with are that one, and then there's an adding custom endpoints handbook page, and then there's also a roots and endpoints handbook page. And a lot of the information from the one is duplicated into the other, so I'm going to kind of be using the two of those. And I'm going to register things specific to my plugin. But before I do that, I need to set up the custom table for the plugin and the plugin header. So let me grab this out of here and we can make some changes to that. So we'll call this WP Learn Form Submissions API. And I'm going to say manages REST API endpoints for a custom table. WP Learn Form Submissions API. I do have GitHub Copilot installed, so that's why some of this stuff is being automatically suggested for me. My code starts there. I don't need my code to start there. Thank you very much. And then I'm going to grab the activation stuff just to reach to the table. This is some code that I've used time and time again to create this table, so it's pretty standard. I will think I will need to find the register activation hook handbook page and just include that in my notes. So it's there. Okay, so let's just do here. Learning outcomes. Build a plugin which registers a custom form submissions table. Okay, so that's done. So I just want to check if my local site has this table already. It shouldn't do. Let's double check. I'm going to use, do I have installed? No, I'm going to use the SQL Buddy plugin for this. There are many other plugins in the repository that do this. Well, are there? Yeah, there's a few. Maybe. But anyway, this is the one that I'm aware of. I was working at Delicious Brains when this plugin was released, so I quite like it. The other way I can also access my local environment is I have PHPMyAdmin installed, but that's not nearly as pretty. So I'll just do it via SQL Buddy. Don't use SQL Buddy on your production sites, folks. I never recommend that. Okay, so let's have a look in SQL Buddy. Okay, and let's see if there's a form submissions table. And this is why I like SQL Buddy, because you can very quickly see your table names here. I mean, here I have to go in, I have to find the site that I'm working with, and then this list, here's the list of tables here. But I find SQL Buddy to be a lot simpler to read. So dashboard, comment, links, options, post, meta, post, term relationships, term taxonomy, term meta. Okay, so there is no form submissions table, so that's good. It has an ID field, a name field, an email field, and primary key. That's all we need for that. So I'll probably just share this code in the workshop. And let's activate that plugin, and then that should create that table. So let's activate the plugin. Good, plugin activated. Let me check if there are any. This is an old debug log, but there's nothing logged today. So that's good. So I can delete that for now. Whenever I develop, I always make sure that I have my debugging on. I do recommend this. can be replaced with constant syntax. I'm so old I used define. But okay. So now that table should be there. Form submissions, there it is. Okay, excellent. So let's pop a, I think SQL Buddy allows you to add a record, does it? Oh, it looks like they've removed that functionality. Interesting. I thought that you could add records in SQL Buddy. That does not appear to be the case. You can edit records, but you can't add records. Interesting. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I'll just add a record this way. So let's go back to WordPress, and there's form submissions, and if I insert a record, I can go name and I can go email, and let's just go my name, Jonathan Passenger, and my email is my name @gmail.com. And you're always welcome to email me on that email address. I can't guarantee I'll answer, but you're welcome to mail me. If it's a question, I'll do my best to answer. If it's spam, I'll ignore you. But if ever you have questions about WordPress related things, especially if it's in a workshop that I've done, or you're not sure where to find some information, I'll gladly help you. What I won't do is help you solve your own problems. I might direct you to some information, but I won't write your code for you. I don't do software as a service anymore. I just realized that developers with the original software as a service. That's a developer joke. Freelance developers, maybe. I need to think about that joke a bit better. Okay, so that's worked. All right, excellent. So now I would like to add some test data, and then create a form submissions route with a get endpoint. In other words, to get the form submissions. All right, so according to this documentation, we use register REST route, and this should be called on the REST API init callback. We need to pass three things to register REST route: the namespace, the route, and the options. We'll get back to namespace in a bit. For now, let's pick my plugin v1, and we're going to have the route. Okay, so our route will be a custom route. So let's take this code as is and pop it into our plugin. Now, I know that there is a big move these days towards doing things like this. So this is a more modern way of writing PHP callbacks, or callback functions. So you create the hook, and then instead of what we used to do in ye old days, let me just, so in the old days, we used to do this. We used to give the function a name. So I don't know, REST API init, let's say register routes. And then we would have a function, WP learn register routes. And we would do this, and then we would do something like that. So that's the old way of doing things. And that's my preferred way, just because then somebody can unhook this function from this init if they want to. So if this plugin is sitting on a client side somewhere, and for whatever reason they need to unhook it, they can do. If you do it this way, it can't be unhooked because you don't have the hook name. So this will always be hooked to that init hook, this callback. This is known as an anonymous function, I think it is. Nothing wrong with it. It's probably easier to manage. But I just prefer the old way. I'm old. So I just prefer doing the hook, because then it makes my code more extensible. It allows people to change things if they want to. That's just me. Okay, so that's the That's what the function is going to tell me. What am I doing here? We don't need that. And we don't need that. And I'm going to format this a little bit better quickly. There we go. And I like to do these things all on their own lines just because I find it easier to read. And then the array can go on its own line. And that can go there, and that can go there, and those two can go there. I just find this easier to read. Personal choice. Okay. So for the namespace, what I tend to like to use is the text domain. And I don't know if the namespace is going to allow me hyphens. So we'll see in a second. It's been a while since I've written. In fact, just for fun, I might add this to the workshop. But just for fun, I last wrote REST API controllers 2 years ago. In fact, maybe even more than 2 years ago. So let's have a look at the episodes controller, for example. So let me see when there we go. Last time I worked on this was 2020, November 2020. So a long time ago. In fact, even before that, because I moved it in 2019. So yeah, that's how long ago I wrote REST API stuff. And it was all class-based and all kinds of other fun. So anyway, I might just, let's just include this. I want to see what is in the REST API controller. I think this was the one where I did the more sort of podcasty stuff. I registered some roots and things. So let's see what I'm just going down memory lane now. 2019 is when I moved them to this directory. It was that. Let's see what the history of that is. REST API controller. I renamed it. Renamed it there. I want to go back to when this file was first. Here we go. September 10, 2018. That was the first time I did this. That was a while ago. Okay, let's go back a few steps here. I think what I'll do is I'll just copy this to my notes and we can reference that. Just for fun. Why not? Okay. So the point is, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've worked on this. Okay. So, where was I? Oh yes, I was writing code. Okay, so namespace, I want to use the plugin. No, not that one. The text domain. We'll see if it allows me to use hyphens. I think it's okay. And then version, we'll leave it as version 1. That's fine. And then the root we want will be form submission. We're not going to pass it any. I don't need to pass it any goodies yet. I probably will later, so we might as well do it later. But for now, I just want to get it. And then for the callback, we're going to go WP learn REST get form submissions. That's fine. Okay, and then I like to do that right underneath the root. So get the form submissions. We can get the results now. This, I think, is fine. We're not inserting data, so I think it's fine to run the query like that and return the results. I do think, however, that we're probably going to need to return them as a JSON format. So let's just see if the callback function is here somewhere. Callback milestone function, return value, yes. Return value is converted to JSON. Oh, so it looks like it's actually, you can just return. Oh, that's cool. So you can just return the array, and then because you're using the built-in functions, as long as the results is either an array or an object, I think. The return value is converted to JSON, returned to the client. This allows you to return basically any form of data. Yeah. So because you're using the register REST route, whatever your callback is set to, whatever you return, WordPress will automatically format it for you, which is one of the things I like about registering routes versus using admin Ajax. Because in admin Ajax, you need to specify if you want a certain format, like if you want it in JSON format. Whereas if you're using the REST API, it understands that JSON is expected and will return it as such. My code sniffer is telling me that I could do this as an inline variable, so I could do that. I could just return the results. I don't want to do that because I want to be able to have some kind of error message, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. But that should now give us a WP Learn Form Submissions API v1 form submission route. So let's test that. So I'm going to use Postman for this. And I'm going to create a new collection, and we'll just do it for WordPress. Do I need to capitalize press if it's my own name? Probably not. And let's add a request, and it's a GET request. And it's going to be WordPress.test. And it's going to be WP JSON. And then instead of WP v2 post, it's going to be our namespace. So it's a good thing to mention that, how the namespacing works. And also, I believe you should never use the WP namespace because it's a WordPress default namespace. So we'll copy this out. WP Form Submissions API v1. And the actual endpoint is form submission. So we will pop that in. I want to see what happens if I take out the... Yeah, that does work. Okay, awesome. Okay, so there's our result. ID, Jonathan, email, that all worked, which is great. That means we've registered the route. We can get the form submissions. That's very cool. I'm glad it all just worked. So let me add some notes here. Register the REST API. Register the REST API. WP Lens API v1 form submission route. It's actually an endpoint because it's actually a route. See, it's register the route, and then you give it the method. And then this will be the callback. Form submissions. Let's do it this way. Let's say get callback for the route. There we go. That works. I like that. Nice and simple. And the cool thing is authentication is managed because we're working with the REST API. Or will it be? Oh, because this is a get, so we don't have to worry about authentication. That's why. But we don't have to worry about nonces because nonces is handled, kind of. Well, it doesn't. It isn't really because it's not coming. But we can do a get request to REST API and just return data, and that's fine. We might need to think about nonces when we do a post, but I'll see about that when we get there. I might have to leave a note about that. But we can do the authentication for that. So we'll see how that works. Okay, let's make a note about that. And then create form submissions route with a post endpoint. Make sure the post endpoint is secure. So we can chat about that. So here's the thing. We don't need to make sure it's secure because we're actually building an API for form submissions. So for example, we would maybe want to build a form plugin that then posts to this API endpoint and returns some information, whatever the case may be. So we don't have to worry too much about making it secure, which is why I chose this example. But what we will need to do is make sure that the sanitization is happening. So it's a good thing we can chat about that. And then so what I'm going to say is I'm going to say ensure data validation and sanitization is in place. Just make myself a note of that. Okay. So now, here's where things get fun, because as far as I can remember, if I specify, let me just check the register REST route. Where's it gone? It hasn't gone. Okay. Register rest root. REST API root. Do not use namespace root args. Okay, so this is a note about permission callback. Now, I'm pretty sure that we won't get this message because we're registering a get root, but we will get it when we do now. What I want to know is, do they talk about whether you can do, so let's just see here. Okay, return value, blah, okay. That's cool. You can do the REST response object. That's fine. We won't dive too much into that. Permissions callback. There's a validate callback on a get. Now, what's interesting is we ran this request and it didn't give me any kind of errors. And I think that's because this is a get root. It's supposed to throw an error. Interesting. It's not. Now, I wonder if that's a bug. Maybe it's because I haven't refreshed the code. Let's try that. Let's go in here and let's go to the dashboard. Let's see if that triggers any errors. Nope, still nothing. Wait, let me just make sure of that. Yeah. Not seeing any debug issues. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to see permission callback, permission callback. I want to return false here. See if that throws in, gives me some kind of error. That was expected. Still no debug. But if I take this out, I get my result. Okay, so I think this is because it's a get. So let's make a post just now and let's see. Now what I want to do is I want to also see if I can do different methods. Yeah, they talk about don't placing anything in the WP namespace, so that's a good thing to mention. I'm not going to deal with path variables just yet. It looks like I need to it's register multiple routes for the different things. Okay, So, yes, this is being recorded and I post these on my YouTube channel. How, excuse me. However, this is simply preparation for my workshop on Thursday, which I recommend you rather either attend or watch. So let me show you where that is. So that is the Thursday Let's Code session, which is here. It's 4 p.m. my time, 2 p.m. UTC. That will be recorded and uploaded to WordPress TV. And that'll be a much better prepared session. This is me just figuring out what I want to do. So if you want to watch a decent prepared version of this, then rather either join the workshop on Thursday or watch the video of the workshop recording. If you want to watch this, you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is just, I believe, youtube.com/John Bossinger, I think. Yes, there it works. So I do push all of these live streams to the YouTube channel as well if you want to catch those there. But I recommend rather coming to the workshop on Thursday or watching the workshop recording, because it'll just be better. Okay, where were we? Yes, okay. So I need to register my routes with my different things. So I'm going to register the post route. So let's do another route. So this will be the, so let's say the routes, and this will be the get. And let's do another one for post. And we can effectively copy all of this. And it'll still be form submission, but this time it's a post. And it will be create form submission. And all I'm going to do there to make that work is I'm going to insert some data. So form submissions, and I'm just going to pop in some data. So I'm going to say, actually, we'll leave it like that and we'll clean it up later. That should work. No, that doesn't work. I need to access it from probably the request object. I think they talk about how you can get arguments. No, I don't want arguments. With variables, no. Is it just post? I wonder. Oh, it's, yeah. Receivable arguments passed from the request. These are merged into a single parameter and then added to the request object, which just passes the first parameter. So it's request. There we go. So if we put that into the function, it's request. And then we go request some parameter. So if we go request name and request email, that should work. And let's just say this is the post callback. So that's the function that's being called when the post request gets made. So I'm expecting this to give me an error if I just post name and email. That's what I'm expecting. What should we return? Let's return, insert will return the number of rows inserted or false on error. So let's just return 1. I'll leave it like that for now. Fine. Actually, let's make it, just knock my mic all over the place. Let's make it rows. And then let's say, just for now, let's just return rows. Just like that. Okay, let's see what happens if I duplicate this request. Let's make this get form submissions. let's make this post form submission. Okay. And that'll be our URL. And it's going to be a post request. And I'm going to pass in some JSON. So it's going to be name. And this won't work because, no, I am saving it, so that's fine. So let's go John Doe, because I'm boring that way. And let's go email. And let's go johndoe@gmail.com. Okay, so there's our data being posted. Okay, so let's see what happens if we send that. It just worked. Why am I not getting errors? Oh, maybe I am. No, I'm not. I would expect there to be a notice because I haven't specified the callback. That's interesting and weird. I must find out about that. That shouldn't do that. I may have unearthed the bug in WordPress. I'm not sure. But that's fine. It shows how it works anyway. Let me just see if I get that. If I run the GET request, I should now see 2. Yes, I've got 2 there. If I check in the database, I check my form submissions, I've got 2. I wonder if they do any kind of, where was that now? Namespacing, arguments. Use the sanitize callback and validate callback allows the main callback to act only to process the request and prepare data to be returned. Safely assume inputs are valid and safe. So you can say validate callback on the argument. Okay. So this code works. This is a very simplified example, but we can now create and return form submissions using this REST API endpoint. I expected it to give me an error because I didn't specify the permissions callback. I'm going to have to dive into why that is the case. So I'm going to make some additional notes for myself here. Follow-up notes. Why did I not need to specify a permissions callback when I registered? I wonder if it's because it's custom. That's possible. Register race route. You know what? It's probably because it's getting something from the common arguments. The defaults. Now I want to know why. Maybe it's because it's public, which is the way I've intended it. I'm gonna have to figure that one out because I want to know why it didn't bother me. I'm gonna do some diving, some deep diving. But that is kind of what I wanted to achieve today. I wanted to just create something that I could test in Postman. That was a lot easier than I expected. So something that somebody asked me a while back was to create something that allowed me to combine data. I want to see if I can find that that query. I think what I'll just do is I'll just mention that this can be used for various examples. And I'll leave it like that. That's the goal. I need to find out about that permissions callback thing. That'll probably increase my workshop a little bit. We use the register activation hook. We use the register REST route function. So let me grab that documentation. Register activation, routes and endpoints, classes REST, register REST route we used. I'm not going to dive into that too much. I think that's fine. I think that covers everything. So that was a lot. Let's just see if there's anything else I want to cover. So we can maybe talk about namespaces a bit. We can talk about the callbacks. I'm going to suggest people read through all of this. Maybe we could do the path variable. That's actually not a bad idea. So let's add the path variable to our get route. And basically what that will do is that will allow us to, my understanding is that should allow us to do both all of the routes and the ID, but it's not going to work because we need to update the callback to use the ID. So let me just see if I get form submissions there. Yeah. So I need both. Is that right? Collection and single. Oh, we need to do it for both. Okay. Okay, well, let's do that then. Why not? That could be a cool thing to add. So let's add the root for the single. So get collection and get single. For that one, we need to pop in the PID business. And that'll be get form submission. And so in the get form submissions, then we can do the get form submission. And that's going to get the request, which I'm guessing will have the, does it pass? I wonder. Let's see. Uses D to signify a numerical character, blah, blah, blah. The regex will filter and do things. And then what does it do? Does it pass it to the request object? Doesn't say. All right, here we go. Request. Yeah, request ID. Okay, that works. So ID is request ID. That out there, and we can chat about security at a later stage. So let's see if that works. I think what I need to do is I need to return result 0 because I don't want. Okay, so let's do that one. So that should give us all of them. Cool. And then if we pass in ID 1, we get 1 back. Now, here's the thing. I don't necessarily want the first. I don't necessarily want the object. I just want that result. So what I might do is I might cast this to an array. Associative array. And then return results 0, which should give me the first object or the first record. Let's see if that works. Yay, there we go. So just get the 1 back. So that's exactly what I need there. I wonder how I would do that. I could probably. Let me see if I can blast. Let me see if I can take this out and just leave it as an object and just do. I think it's just the first one. I think. Maybe not. Let me error log this. So this will basically send this to the debug log. Okay. There's my debug log. Okay, so it is. Oh, it is an array. And then there's objects in the array. So I can just call the first one. It's already an array without doing that. Okay, so then I can just do 0. And I have to specify it's an array. It's an array by default. It's an array of objects. Perfect. So there we go. I just return the 1 result. That's excellent. So that we can do as well. So let's make a note about that. Let's make a note about path variables. Create a form submission. That would actually be ideal if we did form submission with a get endpoint and a ID variable, ID path variable. So let's make that. I tend to like to make my REST namespaces, or names at least, to be very specific. So that one should be form submissions, that one should be form submission, that one should be form submission, because it's a single item. So now if I come back here, this will be form submissions. Boom, all the form submissions I want. Let's duplicate this. Let's say get a form submission by ID. And this will be form submission 1, for example. And we can pass this in as in the params, I think. But I'm just going to do it this way. So there's ID1, so form submission. I like it to be either singular or plural based on what the data is doing. And then post form submission will be a post form submission. And now what we could do is something cool. We could say, yeah, we could leave that, but we could do like a check. Like if that email is being submitted, throw an error, whatever, we could do all kinds of fun stuff. But I'm going to leave that there for now. I think that's enough for now. I'm going to find out about that permissions callback thing because that's kind of annoying me a little bit. So I'm going to dig around and find out about that. And that's good. I think that's a good set of data for the workshop. As I mentioned earlier, if you would like to see the more planned and with slides version of this session, do join me on Thursday, 2 p.m. UTC, 4 p.m. South Africa time, where I will be presenting this as a formal workshop and we'll be coding it again with those examples. And then if you want to see the whole session, it will be recorded to WordPress TV and it will be uploaded to WordPress TV afterwards. So even if you aren't going to make the time, please RSVP for the session and then you'll get notification of when the video is uploaded to WordPress TV. As I mentioned, if you want to see this version of it, you can find me on YouTube. I only have 50 subscribers, so please like, subscribe, comment, whatever that is. Smash that like button, however it works. I'm not a social media influencer. I'm just a WordPress dev, or a dev anyway, who likes working with WordPress. And then if you subscribe, then you'll get notified if there are future updates. But yes, that's where you can find me. Cool. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you haven't, also cool. I do this as prep and to just kind of share my thought process when I put these workshops together. If you're ever wanting to run your own workshops, this is a good way to look at how I put these things together. So thank you all very much. We're a little bit short of time today, but I've covered everything I wanted to, so I'm going to end the stream. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. It is Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday.